So we are live.
We've been live.
We've been live.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay. All right. So first and foremost, I suppose is welcome. Obviously, I want to be clear right off the bat. This isn't going to be a weekly thing. This is a one-off. We've realised that Method of Entry or Attack Dog Studios, whilst making Method of Entry, we've never actually sat down, all five of us, and given to the community like a raw inside look about what's happening within the game development. We've been going since 2022 now, guys, and
October.
it's very, very rare, that we're all together at one place and are able to all get online with our schedules, because, as you probably guessed, a lot of it's being done remotely. We're all over the world, different states, different countries, but I think the purpose and the goal today is just to get to the point where we can break down exactly where we're at and where we're going. So I think we sort of kick it off firstly and just introduce everybody first. Tell you exactly who they are. If you are familiar with the Discord, you will know their tags. However, you probably haven't seen their faces. So whoever would like to go first, over to you.
I'll jump in first. For those of you that don't know me already, I'm Joe, the Jomo. Studio director for Attack Dog Studios. What I really do on the day-to-day with the game is I'm a world designer. So all of the maps, from inception to where we are now, working with Chris to like optimize them, make sure that they're fun, they're engaging, they look nice. That's really where I put the majority of my time.
Anybody else?
Then I'll jump at once. Yeah. I guess I'll go ahead and go since I'm talking. Chris, better known on the internet as the Simon Says. I sort of make all the ideas that these guys have. I bring them to life. I'm the engine guy. I'm the man of many hats.
Engine wizard.
I don't really like titles so much. Engine wizard. Yeah, I've been called that once or twice. Basically, everything that's on screen, I have touched in some way, shape, or form.
And Chris does sigh a lot when we all end up with all these ideas and we throw all them at once. So I do feel for the man. I really, really do.
I have my moody moments.
That's it.
You'll be proud of me. I was talking to Feature earlier with Astro and said, I got to stop because we haven't talked to Chris yet about whether or not you can do it. So I'm getting better.
He can do it. Chris can do it.
I know he can do it.
Yeah, my name's James, better known as Jambo. I'm responsible for a lot of the marketing stuff and everything you see going out into the public, community-wise. Responsible for managing the Discord, getting the community together as a whole, putting out any updates which we feel like the community need to know about. Also responsible for orchestrating the Kickstarter, which we will go into later, so I don't want to take too much time up on that one. But yeah, I have a lot of ideas. I don't touch the game per se. However, I'm very, very present when it comes to the planning and the decisions around Method of Entry, which obviously leads back to stressing Chris out on a daily basis. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm Kubet or Astropolsky in the Discord and other places. But yeah, I mainly work on things like the look and feel and the sound. So things like the sound effects, animations, models, and currently, because it's fun, I guess, the QA testing. I organize a lot of our playtests, deal with a lot of our QA testers and things like that. And then obviously, I do what I can to help Chris with doing some prototyping, a little bit of work in Blueprint, things like that. A lot of design stuff, yeah.
Guys, my name's Anthony. I go by Doc because I'm an ER doctor when I'm not doing this. I'm the visual design director. I help with overall mood of the game, some of the UI assets, some of the in-game assets, video production, stuff like this that we're going to do now. As everybody else said, we all have many hats. So you never know where, there's a blurred line at the end of all of our duties. So, sometimes we find other things that people might be really good at, and it's a learning experience on a day-to-day basis. But that's basically the the arena that I sit in, and a lot of graphic art stuff, and some of the concept art and all that kind of great stuff. So happy to be on this little thing we're doing.
Yeah, so as you probably noticed, Five Guys 5 is not many people to make a game of this magnitude and our vision, which we're trying to achieve. And I have to say as well, and I speak on behalf of the team, as far as we've come from 2022, I'm extremely proud as a group of individuals, how we've started from basic knowledge to where we're at now, where we actually have a game, a title which we can all play and enjoy. And I can't wait until the world obviously sees it. But it obviously didn't start where it is now. There's been thousands upon thousands of updates which have come out, over the last couple of years. One big thing that's happened, semi-recently, is moving from that proof of concept into a Steam build, because that's where Method of Entry is going to release. It's going to be released on Steam. Go wishlist it, by the way.
Do it now.
Do it now, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that deserves a topic of itself at all. Probably Chris is the best person to answer with that one as well. Integrating it into Steam itself as well, and what challenges did we face when we actually did that? And I don't know. Over to you, man.
It wasn't so much that it was a heavy lift. It was just the experience of going about it was the learning curve, like everything else that we're doing already. The coolest thing to me was I was doing some tinkering, trying to get Steam to work, and I got a random message from Joe being like, "Why does it say you're playing Method of Entry right now?"
Yeah.
I go, "Because I made
remember
things
that.
happen."
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was cool. Like you can describe that feeling, because like, okay, all right, what I'm going to say is like we've all obviously introduced ourselves, but I think the one thing the community need to remember at the heart of it, we're all gamers. Okay, we've all grown up playing games. All right, we've played games. We've been on Steam for many, many years, maybe longer than some people watching this video. However, to see your friend playing a game which you are part of is a fantastic feeling, and it really, really is. It gives you that buzz. So yeah, when it went on Steam,
surreal.
Really,
especially compared to where we were before, where we had to like take a build and then store it somewhere, and then everybody had to download it individually.
Yeah.
And then if there was a new build, I had to do the same thing all over again.
Well,
like it's just a much more seamless integration.
Yeah, don't forget how they, either if it was on the Google Drive or it was an executable, and then some of our testers didn't know the extracting process. Like, here's this thing you have to download. Now you have to extract it and pick where it goes and click on this executable, and there you go. Now you're in the game. Now it's you're on Steam. You press this button. That's it.
Well, because we used to have the play tests, didn't we? And we were all edging to get in there and play with the testers as well. And poor old Chris had to go into a separate Discord channel to go and help that one person who couldn't unzip it because it wasn't on there all the time. Yeah. So yeah,
which I don't think can be like understated either. Like kind of talking about the roots and where we come from. That I mean, with the exception of Chris, who had some experience in Blueprint and working with Unreal Engine, like none of us had done this before.
Right.
Like we all kind of got together and were like, how hard could it be? And tried to start making a game. And now we're sitting here where we are with what we have, which obviously still has a long way to go, but shows like a lot of promise. It's the coolest feeling in the world. And like I said, I will wear the badge of like indie developers. Like I will wear that with so much pride because we've learned it all ourselves. Like everything that we've gotten out of that engine, like we have clawed it out through just sheer grit and determination and a lot of frustration. I just, like I said, when James said earlier how proud he was, like I have to second that.
Yeah.
Like the what we've done even to this point is monumental. It's really, really awesome to be a part of.
And the TLDR to how hard could it be? It's hard.
Really, really hard. It's really hard. But sometimes it's not. And that's what's confusing about it too, is that I find myself like having these conversations with Chris where I'll be like, hey, so here's feature X that I think would be really cool. And I feel in the back of my head, even though I know I'm not like a blueprint developer like his, I'm like, I bet this is really fucking complicated. Like, how hard is this to do, Chris? And then 20 minutes later, he'll have it. You know what I mean? And then there's other things that you think, like, you don't even think about them. You think it's such a small ask.
Yep.
And it's weeks later, and he's like, yeah, I can't figure this out, you know? Which there's to date been nothing that he has not yet figured out. You know, there's varying degrees of how much of it we've figured out, but yeah, I can't thank him enough either for kind of holding us up on his shoulders. But it's crazy how complicated some of these things are, because when you really get down to it, you're trying to like simulate reality, you know, and so much so that's like enjoyable and whatnot within the confines of the engine. But like a lot of that stuff is complicated, and I for one did not know before we got in how bad it was going to be.
Yeah. And then you throw multiplayer on top of it.
Right. Well, we didn't want to make it too easy.
Yeah. So obviously there's been thousands upon thousands of updates for method of entry, and you know, considering how far we're along with it now and where we are, we've still got a way to go. But you know, as the boys have said, you know, we're in that position now where we have a fully functional game which we can all play and enjoy, and every single member, you know, here should be extremely proud of like what we've achieved. You know, I mean that, like, you know, I know we've said that plenty of times before in the past, but you know, it's real. It is real. I guess talking about updates and stuff as well, you know, like we obviously chose to use a specific engine for the game, and I don't know if somebody wants to mention which engine we're using and where we started with the engines and how we're getting along with it. I mean, you obviously had a background in it before, Chris, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think that's probably an interesting story kind of by itself, is the origins of us. Like where we came from, I think is probably an important story to tell. I was working on a different game project, and we needed some QA testers. So we hired people who knew what they were doing in the game space. Enter three of the guys that are down here on the screen.
We got hired to do that?
I didn't get paid.
Hired. just like I was hired to make the game.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Voluntold.
Yeah, I was telling that story to my wife actually, because she asked, and I was like, I was bored one day. I was, you know, like, obviously myself, Astro,
Thank
James,
God you were bored.
all used to play competitively in some games. Some titles more than most, but I've always been involved in shooters. We've been obviously friends going back for some time. And just it was kind of stale. I was like scrolling through Steam, like looking through discovery queues. I must have gone thousands of games, you know, just nothing. And came across a title that looked like it might be something that could be cool. You know, went to their page, hit something it was either to like be a tester or like get access to the Discord because it was an early access title. Got right in, and at least initially what they had looked promising. So I shot something over to James, you know, that kind of brought the group in with it. And there, just sitting in a random Discord, was Chris, this super talented game designer who was not letting it wasn't his fault, but his skills were not being utilized. So when that project went the way that it went, that's kind of when we had that question about, well, how hard could it be? Like, we could do this.
Yeah.
And we technically haven't been wrong yet. So,
and we also technically kidnapped Chris as well. You do realize that? Yeah, we did. Yeah. But we haven't just hired.
No. We treat him very well over here.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's it. You know, that's ultimately why, you know, we were looking for another game to test and play, because we were bored with the stagnation of first-person shooters. You know, you know, like as Joe said, you know, we were competitive players. You know, we used to enter tournaments in specific games. You know, for money and win games, and you know, be on ranked leaderboards, and people would know who we were within specific gaming areas. You know, and it's It's like, but it got to the point where we were watching, game developers not do it correctly, not do it right, not listening to the community, not do,
Bingo.
and that was, and I think it's safe to say, and please someone interject, but I think that's where the turning point was. We were so involved in, let's say, a particular title where the development team allowed us in to have that insider access to put forward advice, or how they should be managing the game itself, where we should be pushing in the right direction, but it was falling on deaf ears. And when it was falling on deaf ears, it was getting to the point where every single time we'd log on and play, it became more of a slog because things weren't changing.
Things got worse.
Game got worse. The bug was still there. This was whatever it was, and eventually we all just sort of moved away and we drifted away from it. And that's when we had that conversation of, why don't we try and do it ourselves? Well, no, it wasn't at that point. It was obviously Joe first looking on Steam and just browsing away, and
well, that was because we all had a big group. We all played together for a long time, specifically on like that main game when we were competitive and had our team. And then when our desire to keep playing the game, let's say, fell apart, so did kind of the group, and people split off and went all over the places. And then that bond, we kind of separated out, and then we were like, oh, some of us went to Tarkov, some of us went to this game or that game, and that was like that for a little while. And we were constantly searching during this period, and it was quite long. I think it was over a year where we were kind of like that split part of just searching for the next cool thing. And that's when Joe found this project, and we were like, yes, finally! It was so excited, and we all jumped on it together and to do the testing. And with the promising, we're like, oh my god, these devs are listening. And it was Chris, and I spent a lot of time with Chris in the early days, like talking to him a lot, and I was like, this guy is amazing. He listens and he makes stuff happen. I loved Chris. That hasn't changed. But immediately, and then obviously, well, things didn't work out with that project, and it was then when things didn't work out that thing. That's when we really got fed up, because after that point, it was multiple failed projects or games that just didn't go the way we wanted to see them go. It was a lot of time that's passed of just us floating around, and it was like, dude, like, we know there's a market for this game. We know there's people that like these kinds of games. We want this kind of game. No one else is doing it. We're just going to do it ourselves.
I think it's important to discuss that that's like one of the pillars of this company, is that, there are times when you need to listen to your audience. You need to really, sit down. It doesn't mean you have to do everything that everybody says, but you have to at least like listen to it. And how many games have we all seen where like no one listened, and the only time the dev listened was when there was like a mass exodus of people from the game, and then it's like, then you're kind of like, chasing your tail, trying to like change things and stuff. So, one of the things that we base our whole company on is community focused gaming. And it doesn't mean that everything that everybody says is going to happen in game, but it's going to be given like a legitimate discussion. And we do this in meetings. We have a meeting every single Sunday that we talk about this stuff, and what some people say, what we like, what we don't like, what they don't like. And you got to really respect the community, because you live and die by that.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we've had the background story, and that's where obviously, Chris, you've got the experience where you've worked within the Unreal Engine before, and having known it and the capabilities of it. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Joe originally thought that project you were working on looked really, really good, because of like the graphic fidelity of it all, the actual like the way the engine actually operated, and it felt good, and it was something that you'd worked on before, and you were able to then bring it over to this project, Method of Entry. Have you ever worked with any other engines before or anything like that? Is that the only?
I've dabbled in Unity a little bit. I looked into CryEngine, which has very, very little support. Everything that CryEngine makes is pretty much first party, so that was sort of out. I got into Unreal just because I wanted to make maps and tweak things and play, and it had a really easy barrier to entry because of its visual scripting language blueprints. So we jumped in this project kind of at the very beginning of Unreal Engine 5. The last major version they had of 5.0 when it came out was 5.03, and that's what we started with. And now we're on 5.6.1. So I mean, we've done like every major revision all the way through just to get to the point where we are now, and we're still figuring things out as we go. This has been a learning curve for everybody, me included. I've learned more in the past 3 years of doing this than I probably did in the past 10
Yep,
of
same.
dabbling before, because now it's a motivation. Now it's
Right.
somebody needs a particular feature. Now I have to figure out how to do X rather than just tinkering.
Sorry about that.
Hey, it works.
So I mean, like, what are like the? I mean, and obviously anyone can chime in because I don't touch the game. But what are the benefits of Unreal Engine nowadays? You know, is it obviously I mentioned graphic wise.
I mean, I can jump in real quick and just kind of piggyback off what Chris was saying about its low, like the cost of doing business with Unreal Engine in terms of like what you can know about it is great, because I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing, and that's very apparent if you look at some of like the early white box maps and some of the other stuff that got thrown together. Like, I always attributed it to, like, I used to play a ton of Ark Survival, and whenever I was in a tribe in that game, you know, some people go out and fight, some people harvest resources. I was always a builder, like building bases, you know, trying to make them defensible, making pens for dinosaurs and all that kind of crazy shit. Um, and I kind of like got into Unreal Engine just doing that same thing, like trying to stack boxes and mix shapes and blending stuff together. And, you know, I was able to cobble together like this crappy little house, that I, you know, made off of a blueprint of an actual house, you know. So and it was awful, but like it worked. You know, it had rooms, you could move around. It was apparent what everything was. There is a lot that you have to find out yourself, but like kind of the basics of just getting in there and touching the things and seeing what they do and getting to do, that's super super easy for somebody that has no idea what they were doing. So yeah, I agree with Chris. I think it was a great choice for people of our skill level for sure.
I think one thing I definitely want to say about Unreal is, you know, with its pros and cons, I think, honestly, I think the best thing about it, and when I was originally, before any of this, before I met any of these guys, when I was developing and making games on Unity, I thought like, wow, the community, the you know, like Bracky's shout out, you know, to game dev tutorials and all the things like that. There was so much support for that engine, and I was like, this is so helpful. When I went to Unreal and all of this, like, I think it does it better than Unity. I think there's a bigger community. I think there's way more tutorials on Unreal. I think combined with the ease of use, the blueprint, the amount of tutorials, and not to mention the massive plethora of like the store and the assets and like the things that other Unreal Engine devs have made for other Unreal Engine devs to use in their games. Like all of it combined is just, it's such a massive help for getting into it. There's so much information out on the internet about Unreal now because it's so big and it's so popular. I think that's its greatest strength.
Well, let's just address the elephant in the room then, because you see a lot of topics online talking about game assets and game developers using assets all the time. It's just an asset flip, and then this, that, and then, you know, people get really uproar about it all. You know, I mean, what's the truth behind, you know, the use of assets? I mean, where do we sit as a group? Because I know we've had plenty of discussions about it before in the past.
I think assets get kind of a bad rap the same way like early access gets a bad rap, and that there have been people that have taken advantage of it before. I think Hubert hit the nail on the head that like the community in the Unreal Engine that's developing these things for other developers to then use to sort of, you know, get your foot in the door, get you going, is incredible. And it's games that kind of just have taken that, not really made it their own, but said it was, you know, that give people that notion about it. So, you know, I mean, like it just in this video is proof of it that, I mean, we're five guys, you know, like the big studios that compromise or make a lot of those assets, you know, they have teams of animators. We have one Hubert, you know, and he's done a great job with the assets that he's made, which we are constantly churning out our own assets to replace ones that we've purchased. But a game that's supposed to exist in a real living world with, you know, lights and stuff on tables and all that kind of stuff, you know, that you need assets. So the store is a great way to kind of pull those things in and give yourselves a starting point. But the intention is to eventually have swapped those out with all things that are ours. And I mean, right now, like all of the weapon attachments are now custom made. There's a handful of other assets that go into the game that are all custom made by us now.
Utilities.
All the utilities are custom made. Assets aren't just visual things either, like the audio.
Right.
A lot of the audio that goes along with things is now custom made to us as well.
It's coming to be, that's where like we have a lot of, I mean, really the main, almost everything we like in the game is custom stuff we've done ourselves, aside from your generic real life objects like trash cans and tables and doors and windows and walls, like that basic shit, the boring shit that that you see anywhere. Like I feel like that's really the main majority of our assets, because the vast majority of sound effects we have now and all the sound effects will be custom. I'm working on it. I'm deep in that right now. Always more and more custom sound effects coming out, replacing placeholders. All of our music, if you've heard any of our shorts or seen YouTube videos, any of the music you hear, that's our own custom music. All of the animations, again, all custom animations.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then again, same thing with, utility items, attachments, things like that with the models, random stuff like was the office divider separator random thing I made because
the little cubicle
wall.
We
didn't have any assets that looked good for that, so I was like, okay, cool, we'll just make that. We just do stuff like that all the time. But it doesn't make sense for us as with the size of this team. And we had this discussion because I, as the only experience at the time with 3D modeling, there was that question like, well, there's one of me. There's no way I can make thousands of models to this level of quality. It's just not possible. So like, well, what do we want to prioritize? We want to prioritize the cool, fun stuff that's interesting to gameplay, the attachments, the utilities, the stuff that really are what makes method of entry, and then the generic stuff, we'll use assets for. And then, as Joe said, in the future, we do hope to start, with budget and more power on the team, start replacing those with our own custom stuff. There you go.
But there's only so many ways that you can like design a cardboard box that's sitting in a corner of a room. You're not going to spend, 3 or 4 days, custom making a cardboard box when you can easily get one off of the, Unreal Store as an asset and place it down. It's just not productive.
It's not productive, and it just doesn't make sense. And like players don't care. Like I don't think players really care. Like, oh, is this cardboard box like custom or not? But they do care. Like, oh, is this key feature in the game? Lights out, utility, like, oh, this stinger grenade, is this custom? Yeah, I do.
But that's where obviously I moved to Doc now because of the art direction stuff. There's certain like assets or there's certain things in the game. Let's just take for instance the vending machine. In the game, you've customly done the art on that. Even though it's an asset per se that we may have purchased or taken from somewhere, we've also put our own spin on it, right?
Yeah, we've manipulated a lot of assets to make them our own, whether it's, adding something, changing colors, textures, new artwork on it. Because it's we want to do the things that make it fit better within our game. So it's not like, well, this doesn't really belong, but this is the best we have, so we're just going to ram it into the map. You know what I mean? So if it doesn't meet the criteria of being a great fit, then we're going to still manipulate it further and make it work out so that it looks like it belongs.
Yeah,
or at least a good Easter egg.
Because I want to be clear here. Like the Unreal Engine itself, okay, when you look at it from somebody who doesn't use it, is quite easy in the sense that you can take an asset, plonk it down, and that's it. You can make 4 walls, you can make a house, like with some sort of YouTube training or whatever it is. So you could easily make an entire map, with like assets, for instance, and just literally just plonk a character in there and put like a shooting command, and then you've got a game. People don't
Mhm.
actually realize that what we're doing in the background is, it's not assets. It's like Astro said, it's to do with like the movement style. It's to do with the animations and stuff like that as well. Everything that's in the game is tailored, whether it's certain recoils of weapons, whether it's movement speed, whether it's running, crouching, leaning, and this sort of stuff. That's not easy to do. That's something which takes time, which is in the background, which people don't see because it's not visually there to be able to see. Where there are other games where I have tried other games before where they all feel exactly the same basic sort of engine feel, where you're moving around very robotically, and there's not that life sort of simulation style that Joe sort of alluded to earlier before. Because when you play Method of Entry, you feel like you're walking with gear. You feel like you are at that speed where an operator would be. You're not sprinting around and sliding around on a map and throwing, ninja stars at people or whatever it is, and getting those flashy kills. So I guess that moves on to sort of movement, really, to be honest, and why we chose to do things. I mean, Joe, I don't know if you want to sort of elaborate on certain things on that one, mate.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with that last one too. And that's a good point that I didn't consider when we were talking assets. I was naming visual things that we're working on making our own. One thing that is entirely our own is the blueprint that makes the game work. Like that is not something that you can purchase, I mean, people can buy things to, like you said, piece them together and make a game, but you can't buy a Chris. You know what I mean? Like
You could try.
he's one of a kind. You could try.
You can't buy an MOE plugin.
But no, that can't be understated enough that like the guts of the game is something that has been more or less written from scratch. So but when it comes
to interject, Joe, just also
Yeah.
with the map, like we talk about these assets, but if you go on the Unreal store, I mean, you can buy whole maps, you can buy whole houses and just drop them. So, to Joe, who does all that map making stuff, like none of that, like, it's not a single purchased big map or a single house. And it's just like, oh, well,
Right.
let's change the pictures in it and we'll call it ours. It's not even close to that.
The way that I look at it is that like when you get like a modular map pack off of the store, and we've seen it, especially now that I've spent time in Engine. I have seen games on Steam that have taken one of these maps, dropped it into the game unchanged, and said $20. You know what I mean? Like the way that I look at it is it's like I just bought like the toy box. Like it's got all the building blocks in it, but I have to put them together in an interesting and hopefully fun way for people to play on and one that looks good. And I promise I'm getting better. Some of the early stuff probably doesn't make it look like that. But to get back to movement, like James said, like I think we actually have to kind of take a step back from that even and talk about like the theory about Method of Entry. Like we have this sort of overlaying theory in the game that we call the competitive first, realism follows, where we want to make a game as competitive shooter players in the past that fits that niche and scratches that itch and is fun, is engaging in that. But whenever we can, we want to err on the side of the darker, the grittier, the realism. Like I'm a big Tarkov player. I always have been. Like one of the things that Tarkov does very well is the environments that they have in the game. They're gritty and they're dark and they're dirty and they're believable for the most part. So that's something that we wanted to emulate. We also wanted to emulate that with movement. Like James said, we want your character to feel like an operator who's carrying loaded magazines and gear and a loaded gun. I mean, we're mostly firearms enthusiasts here. I know you guys were when you came to visit me anyways. That stuff's not light. It's and James being a law enforcement officer, like we have some real practical world experience for like how you move when you have these certain things. You're not clambering over objects, you're not sliding down hallways, you're not 360 no scoping people. As cool as that is in the other games, like those games do that stuff well, and that's not what we're trying to be. Like we want the experience to feel grounded and realistic. So we've made some decisions that do that with like character speed and stamina, or like the game doesn't have a jump, like trained operators that are trying to infiltrate an objective are not jumping around corners.
This is one of James's points. He was like, operators do not jump. You just wouldn't do that. It's like yeah, true. I mean,
Right.
and there's other games that have followed that kind of authenticity as well.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice, you can create unintentional metas doing that too. Like, back when the franchise was still, I think, more fun than a lot of people would consider it now. Like, I played a decent amount of Call of Duty. The original Warzone was a lot of fun. I played a lot of that, but like that quickly became most of your engagements. A guy was jumping around a corner at you, or a guy was jumping or spinning around really fast. Like it was fun for what it was, but it wasn't realistic. And as much as a game can be realistic while still being fun, we're trying to walk that line. So you see that in a lot of things. You see it in movement. You see it in the environments. You see it in the gunplay. There's been a lot of thought put into those things.
Yeah, because it's like you're talking about like unintentional metas like drop shotting and stuff like this in other games where people are going to hit prone, dolphin dive, and this sort of stuff as well. And the one thing which we said when we first set out to make Method of Entry is that we were making a game where it rewards your skill. Like this game is as skill based as you possibly get for a first person shooter. Wherever your reticule is, wherever your barrel's pointing, and you pull the trigger, that's where your bullet's going. You don't have to worry about having an airstrike come down to kill the enemies or this sort of stuff, or having super duper human abilities or whatever mutant abilities to fire off laser beams at your fingers and that. This is like literally as true to realism as you can possibly get. That obviously we've tried to get. Obviously enforcing the competitive first, realism follows concept. So everything is. Like if you made it too ultra realistic, it may not become fun. It may become a slog. But you add those little nuances that make it sort of more gamer friendly to people, more approachable for majority of the market to come into. You're going to have the people that are going to enjoy this game, and you're also going to have the people that remember when games used to be like that. Because I mean I speak for the room apart from you, Hubert, unfortunately, because you're not as old as all of us lot. We're all old farts, but I will certainly remember booting up my computer and playing competitive Rainbow Six Rogue Spear. Back in the day, and if anybody who's older who's watching this, you'll be able to relate to like MSN Gaming Zone or GameSpy, and actually loading that up and actually logging into lobbies and playing against the same people that you'd see on a daily basis. You didn't have any voice chat. There was no Discord, none of that sort of stuff. So it was all text-based bits and pieces. You didn't have that sort of like community as you have now. But certainly playing those games back then where it was just simple, you picked your firearm, you were on that team and off you went. It was team deathmatch or it was defuse this or whatever, and you had a great time. It was rinse and repeat. And we've said this before multiple times, and I'll quote exactly what we're saying. Before it was games are trying to do too much to try and be the next big thing. And in that process, they've forgotten about what the golden age of actual gaming was, where it was simple and people could just play it and enjoy what they were doing, because simple isn't always bad. Simple means it's easy for people to pick up, and it might be hard to master, because I'm a gamer at heart. I'm a gamer at heart, but Astro will still kick my ass on Method of Entry, absolutely.
Unless you have a shotgun.
Unless I have a shotgun, of course. But this is what I'm saying, is that it's skill-based, and this is what we really, really try to do with Method of Entry, is basically make it a game where it's skill. It's not to do with, who's got the better armor, who's got the better gun, who's got better abilities, who's the higher level, and this sort of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that sort of side of it. I don't know if anyone else has got it. Sorry, Joe, to cut you off. I don't know.
No. You're fine. I had this thought, I've thrown around this term a little bit before, and then when you were talking about it, I actually got kind of nostalgic for a little bit. But like, I think at least for me, anyways, like this game in a lot of ways is like a love letter to a lot of those games that we played growing up, and some of the ones that we played recently. Like I've taken certain inspirations from things and tried to an interesting part of a map or something from another game. Like maybe I'll try and recreate that a little bit here to get the same kind of flow or vibe or whatever. But it really is a love letter to some of those older games. And it's really cool to see like how the old kind of mixes with the new, with us being in the most updated version of like the Unreal Engine, like how we get to blend some of that modern technology and realism and all of those features in with sort of the old ingredients of the old classics and make this recipe for method of entry.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if anyone else got any nostalgic views at all, or any games I used to play back in the day I want to bring up quickly.
My first 2 tactical, GoldenEye. That's my,
Hell yeah.
that was my first one. My best friend sitting right next to me playing, split screen. And but my first real tactical shooter was Insurgency Source. I actually, funnily enough, I was very casual of a gamer back then. Before Insurgency, like I used to have Xbox Original and played Serious Sam and Unreal Tournament and things like that. But yeah, when my brother got a new PC and then he gave me his old PC, I was like, oh, okay, let me try playing some other shooter games because I like that from the console. And then, I was like, oh, Insurgency, what's this? And going from someone who enjoyed the easy mode on games to not knowing where the hell I just died from because I'm running out like it's Call of Duty across the map and I'm just getting one tapped out of nowhere like 50 times in a row. I'm a really stubborn person and I got so fed up. I'm like, okay, we're going to get good at this. So, and once I started getting good and I started understanding like, oh, this isn't Call of Duty, this is something else. This is opening my eyes to what a tactical shooter is. And I was like, and the satisfaction you get once you learn that, once you learn the maps, you have that map knowledge, you have the tactics, like then you're like, oh, I throw a smoke grenade, then I push, then I check this corner, and it's not just bunny hopping around, and you get those kills playing like that, and it just like it sparks something, like the satisfaction that you get from 1 life per round modes and things like that, and the anxiety and the intensities. Yeah, I've been hooked ever since then. That was what
it's another level, man. Yeah,
that was 15 years ago. So
yeah, but that takes me back when we used to play competitively anyway, and we used to sit there and do strategic meetings about like how we were going to, fare on a certain map against a certain team because we'd watched their previous scrim matches and, these are our entry points and that. And I think that's part of the reason why we're trying to do a game like Method of Entry as well, is to bring back that strategic element to it. I really do.
That and I just want to play it again.
Yeah,
like, I want to play something like that. That's fun. Like,
yeah, I want to capture the experience.
Yeah, it'd be great if the game was a huge success and everybody loved it. I want to play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be said by that, though, isn't there? There is a lot to be said. Like you got a developer who've been working on the game for 3 years. You thought they're going to be sick of it by now, but yet they turn around and go, the only thing I want to do is actually play this game and actually enjoy myself.
I get more excited to play it the further along we get.
You'd think we'd get more and more sick of it, but it's the opposite. The better the game gets and the further along it comes, the more I want to play it, the more I'm inspired, the more I'm motivated to spend even more time on making it happen.
Better believe I'll be out there chopping it up with people. Like when the thing actually goes, like I'll let people kill me in it all day. I don't care. I just want to play it.
You're going to have like 4,000 hours on a map that you already know more than everybody else when they start coming into it. You're like, this guy's cheating, man. This guy's true.
I can't wait till the day I get called a cheer in Method of Entry and be like, actually, I did kind of make it, so I'm sorry about that.
But yeah, I mean, we obviously talking about like Method of Entry itself. I mean, where are we at the moment, guys? When we talk about sort of weapons, utilities, and stuff, because these are the things that people want to know. Like, do we actually have guns in the game, and this sort of stuff is what people are going to be asking. Because I mean, if they're not logged into our YouTube channels, and this is the first time they come across the video, where we at? What we got?
I don't know who wants to grab that one. We currently have 10 guns in the game. There are 4 rifles per side and then a sidearm. So that gives us a total of 10. As far as utilities, we're at what? 8 distinct utilities?
I should know this.
Yeah.
It's 2 shared utilities. I mean, if James, I'm just going to name them if you want.
Name them.
Yeah,
okay. Name the guns as well if you want. Do it.
Shared utilities, smoke and flashbang. We think both teams makes sense. Like they were smoking a flashbang. CT specific utilities, breaching charge, for obvious reasons. As a counter to one T utility, I'll get to. So we've got breaching charge. We've got tear gas. Do I want to? I'm not going to go too much into exactly how the utilities work right now. But yeah, we have tear gas and we have a stinger. If anyone, and then Golden Age inspiration, if anyone's played SWAT 4, you'll know a stinger grenade, which you don't see nowadays in games anymore.
The stinger is cool too.
Which I'm very happy with how that turned
You
out.
don't see it in PvP games, do you?
That's one.
Obviously,
No.
you know.
And there's reasons why we have a stinger, and you'll notice there is something once I finish. There's one thing that's missing that we'll explain why we did that decision. But T-side utilities, like T-side only, we've got the acid bottle, which is our version of basically like your area denial, like your Molotov in some other games, for example. We have the shotguns traps. So like, some games, I'm not going to be too specific, but yeah, some games you have like door traps, or you have certain characters that have those kind of traps. Our shotgun traps are not tied to a certain location like windows or doors. They're, you can basically put them anywhere that you could actually put them. So there's a lot of creative freedom and competitive freedom and stuff you could pick up with those. Let's see, what else? What am I missing? Door jammer. Yeah, and then that's the other one, which I think that is 8 total. So I think you're all right with that. And then obviously, you have your door jammer, so you deny a certain doorway, whether it's into the bomb room or into the map or things like that. And there are counterplays, like the breaching charge, for example. And what didn't I mention that a lot of games have, PvP games have, that we don't, is frag grenades. And maybe because, again, having done a lot of playtests, and this is why playtests are so useful, we don't have any frag grenades in method of entry, and I don't think we will, because originally we were like, oh yeah, every other PvP like tactical game or whatever has frag grenades. Cool, so let's just have that too. We didn't really think about that. When it came to actually playtesting, and those were like at the time one of the only utility items, along with the flash and maybe smoke, that were in the game. No other utility was getting used. It was just people spamming frag grenades, even if they had 1 or 2 each per life. They would just throw a frag grenade, just mindless throw, and it would just insta-kill someone who was next to it. And we just felt like it doesn't make sense for the kind of methodical tactical experience we're trying to make, that you just have this one end all that you just don't even have to think about or use properly, and you guys can obviously interject into that, but that's what we found in playtests. It just didn't work.
Well, it lends itself to what James talked about earlier with, like, we wanted this game to be skillful, like easy to pick up but hard to master. And in a lot of games that we played in the past, like, the frag grenade in the door or through the window or whatever, there's an argument for it. Sure, it's flushing people up, but really it was just cheap kills that weren't super skillful. So a lot of the utility that we have right now, some of it does damage, like to varying degrees. Some of the area effect things, if you just stand in them long enough, I mean, yes, you will die, but there's nothing that's like an instant kill. Like, the point of the utility is to either cover an advance or deny some area or flush a guy out from cover. But the kill is supposed to come from the character actually lining up the shot and securing the kill themselves. Like, the utility is just that. It's utility towards that end. It's not other ways to be lethal.
It's a supplement to your main diet.
Right.
Yeah.
So then obviously we've mentioned the 10 firearms. If you want to know what they are, obviously Discord, or you'll find them on YouTube and that, where we've got the animations put in there if you want to have a look at them all. But something which got put into the game recently, recently I say, but with a caveat, is the attachments to the weapons itself. And when I say recently, I can say that the values were actually changed
in a functional way. Yeah,
in a functional way.
Like
they were just visual before, right?
They were just models. Like, for the longest time, I made these models ages ago, and it was only until recently where we actually, like me and Chris, made it possible where you can actually make it go on the gun. And then Chris did some very smart stuff, as he always does, where like animations will change on how, dynamically, depending on the grips and things like that. But yeah, so you can put the grips, you can put the different muzzle devices on the weapons, and they'll actually change your recoil and your ergonomics and aim down to sight speed, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's had a noticeable different change, and more testing to be done. More testing to be done on all of that for balancing.
I mean, you obviously you've spoken about CTs and Ts and that, and you know, with regards to the game, we came up with the background of like lore, didn't we, with both factions within the game. I don't know, like, if Joe, you want to touch on that, mate, because I know we have a certain part on the Steam page that explains it a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can talk about it, you know, at least a little bit. Obviously, yeah, I mean, we threw the stories up there, but like one of the things that we were hopeful to do with method of entry is, you know, we're interested in doing some world building too, because obviously we hope to go on and do other games at some point. So we wanted to have, you know, like factions, characters that were compelling. We talked a lot about this early on, where it's like, you know, sort of the old trope of like, you know, okay, you're making a SWAT game, so you know you got like SWAT and terrorist. It's like that felt kind of tired, you know. You know, the same thing is like the bad guys are always like Russians or, you know, Middle Eastern people or whatever. It's just the whole thing felt tired. So we actually originally the game was a little bit more like you know, like an anti-narcotics team and like a cartel type, you know, op 4 was the original one. And I was actually I watched Fight Club, and the whole thing at the end about in that movie, you know, they all start that project called Project Mayhem, and I thought the idea of like this sort of enemy that like could be anybody, you know, like it's the super powerful and rich, it's the guy begging for money on the street, it's the guy that's making the sandwich for you down, you know, at the corner, like this sort of enemy that's amongst everybody that, you know, it took some honestly from like the Heath Ledger's Joker too, like the guy that can't be like bought, you know, like they're not in it for money, they're not in it for, you know, anything other than like they have this belief and they're going to see that belief through to the end. Like that just made such more of a compelling enemy for
Right.
me. Especially because like when you get into the nitty gritty of it, you know, like not to get drawn into world events, but like to a certain extent, you get it. You know what I mean? Like you have a bad guy or an op for that's you can kind of reason with, or you can kind of at least see where they're coming from. You've got, you know, the CT side, the good guys, you know, but like if you read their bio, they maybe have some questionable things in the past too. Like that ambiguity makes characters interesting. You know, like no characters in great novels or movies or anything like that are like all evil or all good, with very few exceptions. Um, it's having that middle ground that makes them interesting. So that's what we ultimately ended up on, was sort of a shadowy group of people that think the world is sick, you know, and it's depending on what day, it's hard to argue with them sometimes.
I think yeah. I think I skipped a little bit ahead, but still obviously keeping in the premise of sides again, and talking about loadouts specifically, like economy, and each side having different utilities. But we've also decided to implement an economy structure within the game as well, which we hope. I don't know if Astro or anyone wants to speak about that, Chris, or whatever, like what we're planning on doing with the economy system, or what our ideas are around that.
It's difficult to talk about this one because it's something that we're still planning on doing. We just haven't done it yet.
Hmm.
So this is one of those features where it's like we know we want to, we're just not there yet. But the idea is to not have generic character X and this is the weapon that I picked, but marry those two things together. So the idea is you pick a type of character and that will basically dictate the weapon you get. So if you pick a sniper type character, he'll have a sniper type weapon. If you pick a heavy type character, he'll have a heavier type weapon. Just something that was a little more interesting, a little more unique than just I have a generic looking character and now I just pick a random weapon. We're going to make it so you can only have one of a particular type or two of a particular type, and then you have to sort of pick and choose your strategy based on where the bomb happens to be, the type of map that it is, what you're most comfortable with, and then work as a team collectively that way.
Right.
So it effectively like stops, any teams, getting 5 sniper rifles all at once, on the team, and having a team of snipers, that can easily kill people because, they're really, really good at the game, for instance. They've learned how to be skillful with it.
Yeah, it's our interpretation at economy. Like all these games have some sort of economy. Obviously, you need to limit certain weapons, certain utility, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of games just do it with like a number. You get X number of this many of that, whatever. And as someone who's actually like served, and been on these teams, like different people on these teams have different functions, different jobs. The guy up front, the point man, the first guy in, has a different job than the guy that's watching his back, than the guy at the back of the line. So we were trying to use that real world, way of doing things in a way that actually helps us do like economy, something that's needed in a game like this. And I think it's so far it's looking really, really promising based on the loadouts and how things are going to go. So
Yeah, and just to add to that, so working title, but we call them specializations. Basically,
Right.
and like Chris and Joe were saying, like and James, we don't want there to be five riflemen or 5 snipers. We want that we're using authenticity as a gameplay mechanic to have a more interesting, unique economy, where just like Joe was saying, realistic, both realistically, as you have different roles in the team, but also competitively you also have different roles in the team. So it makes sense for us not to limit economy based on X number of weapons or util or some kind of flat arbitrary monetary value into how expensive this or that can be, but actually to have limitations on the specializations themselves. Like we have right now, we have 4 different ones. So we have the pointman, the rifleman, the marksman, and the tactician, and then each of them serve a different role in the team that the players can choose, with obviously a limit as to how much pointman can there be, how much rifleman, and that we'll do testing and we'll change. That will change with time. So I'm not going to say any hard numbers on that yet, but that's the idea. And one other thing that's not been said yet is because of how the game works with its rounds, 1 life per round mode. That's the main thing right now. Is there's again working. This might change in the future, but 3 rounds per half. And so you'll see a lot of games where if a team is losing at the first couple rounds, basically in that half, their economy is destroyed. So in that last round, they have like no chance to recover. So it's just a wash. That whole half is a wash, pretty much. We don't want to do that. We want each round, the economy for each round to be for that round. If you got destroyed in that previous round, you don't get punished in the second round for it. You have a fresh take. Your economy is tied for each round. The economy is, again, like, it's for a diversity in each round, and not it's not for you don't get punished for entire halves or matches. There you go.
Yeah, I mean the punishment comes in the form of you're now down a round,
and that's all it should be.
But being down around and not having a lot of options makes it that much more likely that you're going to be down 2 and then 3.
Snowball effect.
Right. So it's like he said it perfectly, that like the economy in the game is round based and not match based.
And that's also not very fun.
No, it's not
fun. So I remember the days of playing like CS, and you go in and you buy like an AK or something because you could just afford it with some armor, and you get shot straight away and they take it off you, and that was it. You had pistol next round, and it just wasn't fun, and that by limiting, the players round by round, if it takes away the fun, they're not going to come back and play again. Then it loses that replayability,
And that's not to say that like once we eventually branch into, splitting up like ranked play versus just regular casual play, that maybe some of those features change a little bit to, be a little bit more hardcore in the ranked versions versus the casual versions. But like we said, we want it to be easy to pick up and hard to master. So something that like you even, if you lose, but you still get another shot at it, that to us seems like it's much more of an enjoyable experience than just getting pounded into the dirt over and over again with nothing to really protect yourself anymore.
But like Astro said, we haven't actually implemented it into the game yet. But the whole purpose of this recording is to talk about what we've done and what we plan to do, and our ideas is that. And there's another thing as well that I forgot to mention about the utilities and the actual map design itself was the introduction of verticality. We had this conversation between all of us for a very, very long time as whether or not we should bring verticality in this. And Joe's smiling at me because I know exactly what he's going to say. I'll let you take over, Mr. Mora.
I played a lot of games that have it. A lot of my time was in Rainbow Six Siege. And I hate being able to stand at the base of a building and yeet a rappel all the way up to the roof so far away. It never made sense. I'm sure I'm overthinking it, but to me personally, that was always one of the most immersion breaking things of those games is that you just, and then I'm up and I'm down and I'm hanging upside down. We talked about how do we do that. We even had at the very, very beginning a semi-functional rappel system that you could go up and down and all that. And we just didn't like it. It didn't feel real. So we've kind of taken verticality in a different way. And again, looking at like what real world teams do, which is where we've landed right now on like a deployable tactical ladder that isn't just you can go to any part of a building and throw it up there and get onto any, the ladder has a preset length. So there's spots in maps that are designed for that utility to be used. The trade-off being that, you take that utility in, so you give up one of the other utilities, but now you have more direct access to a bomb site or quicker access into a building. Trying to keep everything still within that balance, but like we want it to be a decision. Like everything else, your utility needs to be a decision. And the rappelling thing is just so immersion breaking. I can't get past it. Every time I see it in a game, I kind of laugh to myself that's dumb. I imagine like every time you throw it out, like that's dumb. That it goes like that. But yeah, that was our thought process behind it, is that the mechanic doesn't make sense in a realistic shooter, so we're not going to have it. We're going to use something that does.
I mean, that's another thing that I mean, forgive me if that's happened before, but I don't remember ladders being in any competitive first-person shooter that you could place.
That's what I said. Nor do I.
It's unique in that sense. Stinger grenade is unique in that sense. The Stinger, with regards to PvP and that as well. But it leads me on nicely to talk about another unique feature that we've implemented into Method of Entry, which we've named it Lights Out. And for those who've actually followed us on YouTube and Discord, Lights Out is a feature which we implemented to make Method of Entry stand out from other tactical shooters. It's a very, very unique feature that's never been done before. Essentially, or what it is there's two different ways which you can die in the game. If you get shot, obviously, and your health falls to zero, and you're hitting the body, what you're going to see for your operator is, your eyes slowly closing, falling to the ground, and you're going to still be able to hear sounds around you, and then suddenly your vision will sort of close very, very slowly. You'll still have that instinct where you're able to still hear and see things in those last moments, so you're able to give like communications to your teammates, who will know roughly what sort of area you're in. The lights out mechanic was put into the game where if you actually died and actually took a round to the head in the game, it would automatically just completely shut you down. What it does is it makes your screen go black. It's almost like a jump scare. It's you don't hear anything after your screen goes black. You don't see anything after your screen goes black. You're just met with this thud, and then that's it, silence. The whole reason why we implemented it into the game was to sort of add that unique element to disabling somebody's communications within a game. Games rely on, games of this type rely on communication, and Discord, TeamSpeak, you can use in-game voice communications, and we had this discussion before about using in-game voice as well and having that cut off, but you're always going to have people who are always going to use Discord anyway. So the idea was to actually use a visual cutout, which enables them to take away like all your senses. You can't hear, you can't see. So it's a massive disadvantage to the team, an opposite team member who gets hit in the head, because they could just be walking down a corridor, and suddenly just take a shot from their right side, and they won't have a clue where they are, because that corridor's got 6-7 doors down it, and you're not going to be able to give effective communications to your team, so you're kind of in the dark. So it intensifies, headshots. It makes you want to play the game in a skillful way, where you do take the time to actually line up that shot as somebody's coming past you on the side profile, and actually take the shot, and able to rid the enemy team of communication. It's such a unique, fascinating idea that we came up with, and it was also, going back to the beginning of this whole conversation, it was one of the one going, Chris, can you do it? And passing that over, and it's implemented, it's in the game, it works. And I think it's a fantastic design. And when people sort of ask, what is Method of Entry doing that's unique to other tactical shooters on the market, I mean, that's at the forefront. It has to be. I don't know if anybody wants to obviously say anything about Lights Out themselves.
I was just gonna add something to that ties in with that, which a callback to what you were saying earlier about how we want to prioritize skill-based gameplay, like skill over anything else. And if it hasn't been said already, then every, regardless of the weapon or whatever, any one shot to the head is a kill for full health. So we not only incentivize so headshots are dual incentivized, essentially. You've got the lights out, you're taking away the audio, you're taking away the sight instantly, so taking away that information from the team, but it's also one bullet, one shot to the head, dead. And obviously, so that enforces, accuracy. It enforces, taking time and aim. Yes, our TTK is quite quick. Yes, you can spray someone down. There's no juggernauts, like they do die in some handful of bullets, but they have time to react. They know where it's coming from. If they die again, they know, they can give information to a team, and you giving them a chance to fight back, versus that one headshot, dude. Like pistols, doesn't matter, one shot, headshot.
Competitive gamers understand how valuable that last quarter of a second is when you're going down in a game, to be able to relay stuff to your teammate. Like, you can say, hey, that was from behind me, or he's up here to the right, or something that lets the guy behind you know exactly where the guy is. To get that taken from you, that can be a game changer. So there's a huge incentive to hit those headshots.
I mean, there's plenty of other features, obviously, which we're talking about, in the dark, and it wouldn't be much of a surprise if obviously we start mentioning. And we can talk about game features for a very, very long time. And I appreciate obviously the time's going on, and we want to keep this video as short as possible to give you as much information as we can. But I just want to quickly move over to something which has happened recently, really, to be honest, which was the discussions around server infrastructures. And the reasons why we've done what we've done. I'm not the server guy. I don't even pretend to understand anything about it, so I will pass it out to the one man that does know about it, Chris.
Sure. We originally started both from a quickness of deployability and from a cost-saving standpoint, since, again, we're a small team. We're trying to do this on our own. We started with peer-to-peer. We started with the ability of getting a group of people together. One person is a host, and everybody connects to them. And it worked. We had a functioning version using Steam sessions and things like that, using their back end. But it didn't feel very good, because and the reason we didn't like it is we had no control over it. If somebody had a bad computer, bad internet connection, their internet goes out, people are going to have a bad experience and blame the game when we have no control over that. So we wanted to put it to something that we knew would be a lot more reliable, if nothing else. So we looked at server infrastructure on a dedicated server sort of basis. One of the issues we ran into with that is there's only a handful of players in that game, and most of them have a very, very large barrier to entry. You have to almost know what you're doing already in order to make it work. We spent money and time and effort to try to look into Amazon. because Amazon was the bee's knees. They were the way to go. The problem with that is there's a number of services you have to have in order to make that work. And us being this small of a team, we don't have the time, effort, or money involved to do something at that level yet. It's still an aspiration. We would love to get on GameLift and S3 and everything else, but we found a service right now that we're playing with that seems to work for us. I don't want to name names yet because we're still early in trying to figure that out, and it may change, although I doubt it. But yeah, servers are one of those things that we talked about from the beginning that we always wanted. And when we got to the playtest where we're doing peer-to-peer, we decided to pull the trigger sooner rather than later.
We're kind of at the point where it's like a non-negotiable. We would never go back to peer-to-peer because the competitive nature of the game, you need to have that tick rate. You need to have that feeling of you're not having super high latency or having an advantage or disadvantage over somebody else. You need to try and keep the playing field as level as possible, which is why we're looking at the dedicated side of it.
The one nice thing about the service that we have is it grabs the location data of everybody that's going to connect to it, and it will find the best server for all 10 people that are involved so that everybody has as good a play experience as they possibly can get. So you're not stuck with only US servers or only European servers or only Asian servers. It will triangulate and find the best one for everybody involved.
Yeah. It's huge. Yeah. We've spoken about a lot of things today. I don't know if there's anything in particular anyone wants to bring up at this point.
I just quick shout out. I was going to say that behind me and behind Chris and logos and everything goes to that guy. I don't know. On my screen, he's in the middle, up top.
Right here for me. But Doc has helped kind of give a lot of color and life to this title too. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, Doc?
Sure. I think, I used to dabble in a lot of graphic art. I did comic book art right before I went to medical school. I was t-shirt designer and stuff like that. So I always enjoyed that. And Chris also has some dabbles in that stuff too. So sometimes I'll bounce some stuff off him. But, the mood, whether it's audio mood or video mood or color schemes, it really is all part of the immersion. And I get so excited talking about, could we have 4 or 5 different sounds of door openings, stuff like that. And I know that's not necessarily an art thing, but it's an audio thing. It's an immersion thing. And I get so excited if there's, particles of dust in the air or, different type of animations or different type of imagery. So, being able to play a role. A lot of the stuff that you see was started with some concept art. Astro's background is a concept art thing.
Love this one, my favorite.
It's a refining over time. It's fun. Sometimes it's frustrating, right? Because Chris can vouch for this. We'll make something. We'll put all this time in. And we're like, let's just change it. Let's just do something different. And
sorry.
And no, and it can be sometimes disheartening, but at the end you realize once you do it and you refine it and you're like, oh yeah, this is so much better. It's so much better.
I don't know. I didn't even notice this, but we're all wearing the results of your work too. The logos, the Kick logo, all this stuff, all the merchandise that we have, all of that is designed by this guy right here. So
it's not just that as well. It's all the UI as well.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
UI, menus, everything you see. You open a map. It's designed, by hand, but on a computer. But by this man. As well. So
isn't Chris is over here? Isn't his background also designed by you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and what is it? It's behind me, but it's on my wall. I have a really nice metal poster for our ADS logo. ADS logos, obviously. As well.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the color palette for the game, which I love the color palette with all our stuff, I think it looks fantastic. This doc, I'm looking at, I don't know if we can show it maybe in post or not, who knows, I don't know, but I've got a thing that doc sent me a concept, some concept UI he designed that we're gonna have in the future. Very clean, very nice. I'm not gonna show it.
So he's given. Oh, go ahead.
No, I used to make a lot of UI for mobile software. So different MP3 players, and back when I used to make a lot of stuff on DeviantArt. If anybody knows that website, I know Chris knows it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and to be able to do this in something that is so refined, it's not just an image. Like, it's a whole piece of software. It's like its whole living thing, and you realize that like thousands of people are going to get to see all of this stuff, and that's right down to the programming, to all the decisions that are made, the operators, the weapons, the sound effects, the visuals. I mean, that's why we're so like chomping at the bit to get this stuff out, and we've been really burning the candle at both ends recently, trying to make sure that we move ahead at the time frames that we want to. This is not all our 24/7 or 40-hour work week job. We do this as it's a passion project, but it's something we want to see make a success and a dent in the gaming industry. So just so excited to get this out there to the world so they can see like the fruit of your labor. And, not to mention this, and I know James is going to want to probably talk about this a little bit, but, we're even developing, besides the swag, like little kind of things that eventually we're going to be able to give out to players for different reasons. And, a lot of that stuff is being refined, but I mean, it will go beyond just t-shirts and in-game items. So there's more stuff in that pipeline too. So that's real fun to work on as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of exciting things which are coming as well, and I do appreciate that, we as a company have appeared to have been stagnating with the community for quite a while now. We have put out obviously posts, we've put out YouTube videos and that, but the one thing which you always got to remember is that like first impressions count about a lot of things, and we're all very, very passionate about this game, and we want it to look the best as possible before we start putting it out there and really, really, really pushing it, because 2026 is the year that method of entry starts to go worldwide. It's Steam gives us that platform to be able to put it out to the world. You say that to anybody who doesn't know anything about gaming or Steam and that sort of stuff, they're like, to the world? Yeah, to the world. So to enable us to be in the best position we possibly can, this is where we need to make sure the art's all on top form, the actual trailers that we're putting out are really, really good. The actual game itself, it looks as really realistic as it possibly can, to the point where somebody looks and goes, oh, that's really, really good, and then they wishlist it and come back to it. You don't want to put them off at that first hurdle. Although I fully understand that there is a process, and we are starting to show the development process now of where we were to where we are now, and I think it's massive. And I said it at the start, I'm extremely proud and to be part of this team, to be where we're at now. Really, really am. Yeah. So the other thing that I just wanted to address really quickly before we wrap up on that was the choice to do Kickstarter. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to throw that word out there, obviously, and to some people it sends a shiver down people's spines. To some people, they get really, really excited. I don't know if anyone wants to speak about it right now or their thoughts around it. I mean, I'm more than happy to.
You're the man.
Yeah, I think you and I are of the same mind about it.
Yeah. Okay. So effectively, everybody should know what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is like a funding service, well, not a funding service, where people can basically purchase certain items or service games or whatever, and do it via different tiers. Kickstarter gets a bad rep because a lot of games, a lot of things that are made within the video game industry never come to fruition. People put their hand in their pockets and then they try and get refunds back for certain, games that they bought on the Kickstarter website. There's whole legal battles that go on about it and whether or not games are going to come out or anything like that. We've taken the view of doing Kickstarter not purely for a monetary reason. We want to do Kickstarter to firstly offer the community and people something that they're not able to sort of buy in the shops or the stores. As I mentioned, there are different tiers. Yes, you can buy Kickstarter. You can get Kickstarter. You can get method of entry on Kickstarter nice and early before everybody else. which is an absolute benefit. But then as you move down certain reward tiers, as Doc mentioned before, there are certain things within the tiers, whether it be, digital merchandise, physical merchandise. And I don't want to obviously spoil it too much because we haven't actually launched the Kickstarter page yet. However, it enables us to be able to give to those people who wish to support our journey just that little bit more, and just to show our thanks as well. And people are going to ask, where's the money going? What's the money for? We've had this discussion multiple times within, the group as well, that we don't actually need the money, to complete Method of Entry. We do not need the money to, add any cool features. The majority of the stuff in the game is already in the game. Yes, there are stuff to implement, but it's not going to cost us, thousands upon thousands of pounds, or dollars, or whatever monetary value it is. My apologies, being British. However, Kickstarter, will give us certain funds to be able to do things outside of the game, outside of development. We are a 5-person team. We don't have the ability to hire a full-blown marketing team to go out there and put billboards up, around streets. We don't have the ability to, suddenly go to Instagram and say, can you, put a post up on Instagram for us and promote it, or, ask certain content creators to showcase our game for paid promotion. We're just not in that position. And we are purely relying on word of mouth. We're relying on, social media, which we're pushing out ourselves, and Steam actually being part of that as well. Kickstarter will enable us to have certain funds to be able to reach out to different areas within the sort of like gaming place. So it will enable us to reach out to people, who might not have certain social media, I don't know, avenues for Instagram, for instance. People are not on Instagram, people are not on YouTube, and that, we're able to reach out and actually like advertise it in like certain places where we believe that it will get the best retention from. I think the key point with regards to sort of Kickstarter is, regardless of whether or not Kickstarter gets funded, because I don't know if people understand this, like, if Kickstarter doesn't meet its goal of how much money it's asking for, then the project doesn't come out through Kickstarter. However, we are going to stay here right now on record, regardless whether or not Kickstarter is successful, Method of Entry will still exist. And I want to just emphasize that point, because people get really, really scared and really dubious about Kickstarter. Okay, Kickstarter is there to assist us and to pay back to the people who are paying into it. It's not a be all or end all for us. I just wanted to raise that point, really.
And as well, per the size of the team and manpower and things like that as well. Another thing that the money from the Kickstarter will help massively is, like, yes, Method of Entry will come out regardless, but that might be way further down the road than if we had some more funding to help us essentially speed up development, because the funding from Kickstarter will also massively help us basically hire contractors. Like we have worked with contractors before for some sounds, for some animations, hoping to do more of that, basically more modeling maybe, and some for other stuff, just to help both speed stuff up and also to raise the quality of the project as a whole. So there is, like James said, there's the stuff for the backers, for people who believe in us. There's the marketing, server costs as well, of course, that's going to help massively in that. And like I said, all the contracting and manpower. So those are the reasons. There's a lot of good that it can do.
Yeah, I mean, we realize that what we're building right now is a multiplayer game at its heart. A multiplayer game requires people in it to, flesh out the game loop and make it so you're not in a giant queue time, waiting forever to get into a match. I can't stress it enough that, like, James is right. Like, Method of Entry gets made regardless of whether or not a Kickstarter hits a goal. What Kickstarter helps us do is put Method of Entry out to as many content creators and in front of as many people to try and get as many people excited about it, so that there are more people in the player pool. That's that's what that funding is going out for. Like the server situation is it spools up with demand. So like, we have the ability to finish the game and give it a place to live. We just want to try and get it out in front of as many people to populate it and get in there and shoot the hell out of each other. So
yeah, I mean the Kickstarter pre-launch page is live at the moment. You can go along and follow, so you get notified when it gets launched. So if there is anybody who's obviously interested in going along there, just go on Kickstarter and just type in method of entry and you'll find it. It's got all the information on there you need to know. But until it actually releases, we're not going to divulge what's on the tiers because I'm quite excited about a lot of those ones.
Yeah, there's some cool things there.
Yeah,
but you can all help us out. You can all help us out by making sure you get on the Discord. We'll attach the link to this video. Follow us on YouTube and other socials so you can always see what's going on, and tell your friends. If it's something you're interested in, you got a group of guys who like to play these kind of games, I mean, let them know. And, word of mouth is always invaluable as well.
Yeah.
And Wishlist on Steam.
Wishlist on Steam. 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, closing up now because it's been almost, it's been an hour and 30 minutes by looking at the time on it. But, I guess the community want to know, like, what's next from us? What should they expect? We've just started 2026. We've gone out of a bang with 2025. What should they expect?
Well, I could say that, this is kind of like, when you're going on a roller coaster, right? And you're going on that first big hill. And we're kind of like up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, as James said, like 2026 is going to be a big year for this game. So, information is going to be coming out. We're going to be getting into more testing. We're at the point where, some of these maps are really, really good. Really good. And, as soon as we get a couple of other little things buttoned up, I mean, we're going to be opening things up to more people. So, people are going to be able to, have a run with method of entry. So I expect that we will be seeing a lot more PR, and I'd like to see us get out to a couple different things like, PAX or something like that, or eventually, but, we haven't even discussed that yet. So I'm just saying that here now. But the point is that I think that word of mouth is going to be bigger, and you're going to hear a lot more, and you're going to see a lot more, because we're at the point now where a lot of the technology is kind of in a more finalized process than what it was a couple of years ago. And, Chris could argue with me about that. But the point is that it's at the point now where it's getting more exciting. It's getting more fleshed out. It's getting more polished. And I think that's what people are going to want to see.
I mean, that's one thing that you can say, that you talk about maps and how they're getting better and better day by day and more polished than that. And I'm sure I've just interrupted Joe. Is probably going to say exactly what I was going to talk about, but we would talk about the lighting and stuff that we've recently come on to.
I mean, I can talk for hours about that. I chew Chris's ear off all the time while I'm working on these things. But just to kind of piggyback off what they were saying too about like what you can expect from us coming forward, we're putting stuff development wise in the Discord all the time. We do want to tell more of a public story now that we feel like the game is in a good enough spot where we can show it. Because that's always the trick bag, is it's really easy to talk about what you want to do, but being able to have something that you can deliver. The trick bag to that is that then it's really easy to make something look nice on a screen, but until people get their hands on it, that nobody really knows what you have. So while I can't say for sure, that this will happen, the goal is that at least in a demo form, that you guys will actually be able to play this title sometime this year. I don't want to speak too much to the timing, because obviously you say one thing, development things happen, and then everybody gets mad at us when we don't make it. So the goal is that this year sometime there will be a playable demo out of Method of Entry where you guys can actually experience the things we're talking about. And you can cut that out if you don't want to put that in there, but I think it's good to say. In terms of the maps, yeah, I mean, performance in the game is such a complicated thing. It's not as simple as going in and selecting a few boxes and saying, yeah, okay, now the engine is optimized. Every little thing you do to it matters. Every light that you put in matters. Every asset you put in, how complex it is, the material that goes on it. And I know to like developers of this stuff that you're like, yeah, no shit. But I didn't know that getting into it. So like the work that we've done, both from like the fidelity in playing with all of the back end stuff that the engine can do. I mean, we said at the very beginning that we started in 501, 503,
503.
503, and we're now in 5.6.
561.
Yep.
5.6.1. A big reason for chasing those through was like we were, Unreal kept touting like, oh, this engine's much more performant with lighting, or it's more performant with this. And this is a competitive game, frames matter, but we also don't want it to look awful. Like we were kept chasing that sometimes what seemed like an unattainable goal of like, we want it to look awesome and we want it to play awesome. And especially with some of the things that we've done recently with light map work and with some GPU light mass stuff, we've got it now to a point, and our future content will kind of start to show this, that like the game is in a spot where I think it looks great and the performance is the best that it's ever been. And when I say the best that it's ever been, it's very well. I'll let you guys get in there hopefully and see for yourselves. But I think we hit it. I think we hit that balance of performance and fidelity where regardless of whether you want to max out frames to inch out everyone you can, or if you're okay with a little less frames because you want a beautiful environment, you'll find what you're looking for with method of entry.
I mean, it's got to be true. If I went into the build today and I was completely speechless, because literally, I went into the build today and it's night and day. And I don't mean it as a pun because we're talking about lights, but literally it is night and day. It's so much more performant now. And somebody who's got a lesser powerful PC, in their GPU, to be able to now go into the game and have the performance that I would expect out of a shooter, and be able to say, yeah, I can comfortably play this game, at a competitive level, and feel fluid, is a lot, because I've always had a lot to say. I've always said to Chris, on those late nights, and said, oh, can you do this? Can you look at that? Can you look at that? I literally went in the build today and there was no words. So, I just got to say to the boys, they've done a fantastic job. Literally, really, really have. And I can't stress it enough. It's so good.
You're going to see more of it because it's pretty now.
It's pretty now.
Yeah, it is pretty now.
Yeah, it makes me want to remove everything we put out originally and just literally shove this all out there.
That's been the frustration, is that like as we're learning, every time I build a map, I've learned so much building the previous one that the new one looks awesome, and the other one I want to delete everything that exists prior to this, and probably will on a couple of the earlier ones, truth be told. But there's some really cool ones too. That it's a learning experience, and I think that speaks to it, where it's like this really is a passion project. Like I look forward to working on this map. I used to look forward to the Tarkov wipe and all these other things, and I haven't touched Tarkov in I don't know how long. I actively look forward to putting walls together and layering stuff in rooms and getting the right light to hit this thing in the right way, and it truly is a passion project and a love letter, and we hope that reflects when you guys get in and see it for yourselves.
I think that's a perfect place to close, guys. I think unless there's anything else for anybody at all.
No, just
I'm good.
well done.
Lovely.
Well done, everyone.
Yeah, well,
All right.
yeah, I'm very, very proud. As
Yeah.
I said multiple times. Obviously, you guys watching the video, thank you for sticking with us if you got all the way to the end. The biggest thing you guys can do for us right now is just to do what Doc said. If you can wishlist Method of Entry on Steam, join the Discord, get talking. I can guarantee you're not going to find any updates which are fresh off the press anywhere else other than the Discord. So if you can make it to the Discord, get in there. We're always in there. You'll see us there every Sunday having a discussion, meetings as we do every Sunday, which is very, very structured. We also have a lot of development channels open as well, where the guys will be sitting there actually doing development stuff on
Dev streams, yeah.
So-
Mm-hmm.
certain dev streams, and you're able to join, albeit you can't talk, but you'll be able to see firsthand what the guys are doing, and not to mention that as well, there's also application forms in there to become testers, content creators. So if you're a content creator and you are looking for that next game, all right, that next tactical shooter to scratch that itch, get in contact, come and have a chat with us. But as I said, I'm very, very proud. 2022 to 2026, we've come a hell of a long way, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
We have.
All right, we'll leave it there.
Wishlist method of entry now on Steam, and get all the newest updates on our Discord. Also, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. Method of entry. Competitive first, realism follows.